What's up, Cowboys Nation? We're back with another update, and you won't want to miss this one. As always, the team is pushing to improve week after week, bringing us closer to where we need to be for a playoff run. If you're loving the grind and the journey, smash that like button, and let's dive into today's hot topic. We've got some big updates on our defensive superstar, Micah Parsons, and the team's gritty win against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. It was a massive victory, but one big question remains. Will Micah Parsons be back on the field for our showdown against the Detroit Lions? Let's get into the details. Micah Parsons has been an absolute force for the Cowboys since day one, and we felt his absence last week when he missed a game against Pittsburgh due to an ankle injury. Now, all eyes are on whether he'll be ready to take the field this Sunday against the Lions. Head coach Mike McCarthy gave us an update, saying Micah's got some work to do before he's back out there. That ankle injury he picked up against the Giants has been more troublesome than we hoped. McCarthy added that it's still too early to make a call on Parsons' availability for Sunday, but we should know more by Wednesday after a few more practices. For those keeping track, this is only the second time Parsons has missed a game in his NFL career, and the first time it's been due to injury. Back in 2021, during his rookie season, Parsons sat out the Week 17 game to rest up for the playoffs. But now, with this ankle injury, Parsons is in danger of missing back-to-back games for the first time in his career. What does that mean for our game against the Lions? Well, it's no secret that Jared Goff and the Lions' offensive line will be breathing a bit easier if Parsons is sidelined. Last season, Micah dominated against Detroit, racking up 6 tackles, 2 tackles for loss TFLs, and 2 quarterback hits. Detroit's offense has been rolling this year, and without Parsons, that matchup gets a lot tougher for Dallas. But let's not lose hope just yet. There's still a chance that Micah suits up, and if anyone can bounce back quickly, it's him. Keep your fingers crossed, Cowboys fans. Speaking of last week, let's talk about that heart-pounding victory over the Steelers. Dallas pulled off a thrilling 24-21 win in the final minutes, and it wasn't easy. With Dak Prescott connecting with Jalen Tolbert for the game-winning touchdown, this win feels like a turning point for the 2024 season. Let's be honest, this is the first win this year that really gives us hope. Sure, the Cowboys are now 3-2, but our first 2 wins weren't exactly confidence boosters. In Week 1, we dominated the Cleveland Browns, but let's face it, they weren't at full strength. Between their banged-up offensive line and Deshaun Watson's struggles, it wasn't a real test for us. Then, we barely scraped by the New York Giants, and that game was more about who could play worse than anything else. But Pittsburgh? That's a different story. Coming into the game with a 3-1 record, the Steelers were no joke. They had the home field advantage, and most analysts had them as heavy favorites. Add in the fact that the game was delayed due to weather, and it looked like the odds were stacked against us. The adversity didn't stop there. The Cowboys were already without Micah Parsons, Darren Bland, and DeMarcus Lawrence. Then, during the game, we lost Marshawn Nealon early on, and Brandon Cooks missed his first game since going on IR. To make matters worse, Tyler Guyton and Zach Martin also went down. At that point, it felt like everything was falling apart, and we were just waiting for Pittsburgh to capitalize on our mistakes. But they didn't. Somehow, despite the turnovers, the blocked field goal, and all the injuries, the Cowboys held strong. The defense, under the guidance of Mike Zimmer, held its ground even with a depleted lineup. Rico Dowdle, who had been quiet most of the season, stepped up big time, running hard on every touch. And Jalen Tolbert, despite playing through pain, came through in the clutch with that final touchdown. And of course, Dak Prescott deserves credit for keeping his composure on that last drive. He may have made some mistakes earlier in the game, but when it mattered most, he led the team to victory. Let's also give a shout-out to Mike McCarthy. Yes, we've been critical of his decision-making. And yes, there were some questionable calls during the game, like when a challenge or not challenge plays. But McCarthy deserves credit for keeping the team mentally tough. After seeing the Cowboys show little fight in earlier losses to New Orleans and Baltimore, Sunday's win felt different. Even with everything going against them, the team didn't fold. They showed grit, determination, and most importantly, heart. That's something we haven't said much about the Cowboys lately, but it's worth noting. So, what does this all mean for the rest of the season? Could this be the spark that the Cowboys need to turn things around? Well, the victory over the Steelers definitely gives us something to build on. Detroit will be a tough test, especially if Parsons isn't back on the field. But if we can carry this momentum forward, particularly in the running game, we might finally find the consistency we've been lacking. One thing is for sure, the Cowboys aren't out of the fight yet. We've got the talent, and we've shown flashes of what we're capable of. If we can stay healthy and keep this newfound grit alive, there's no reason why we can't be competitive in the NFC. Cowboys Nation, we all saw it. 3 turnovers from Dak Prescott, and what looked like a messy game filled with penalties and missed opportunities. Some fans have been quick to criticize, saying the win wasn't as big as it should have been. And let's be real, it did feel ugly at times, didn't it? It's tough watching your team leave points on the field and commit costly mistakes. But hold on. Dak Prescott broke it down for us in a way that really makes you see the game differently. When asked if he ever doubted the team's ability to come back and win, Dak didn't hesitate. His response? No way. Dak explained that when things weren't going the Cowboys' way, it was mostly self-inflicted. He owned up to his mistakes, whether it was that fumble in the red zone, the interception before halftime, or even the penalty that pushed them back before another pick. But here's the thing. Outside of those turnovers, the Cowboys' offense was moving the ball at will. And Dak is absolutely right. Let's break down some key numbers. The Steelers came into Week 5 with a top 10 pass defense and a top 3 run defense. Despite that, Dallas managed to rack up 445 total yards of offense, averaging 5.9 yards per play and converting 9 of 15 on third downs. That's pretty impressive, right? According to RBSDM.com, even including the turnovers, the Cowboys' offense ranked 8th in EPA per play, expected points added in Week 5. And get this, when you filter out the turnovers, the Cowboys were ranked 2nd in EPA per dropback. That means outside of those costly errors, Dak and the offense were cooking. One thing that really stood out was how Dak spread the ball to his receivers. 4 pass catchers finished the game with more than 50 receiving yards, and that doesn't even count Rico Dowdle, who also caught a touchdown pass. This offense was clicking, and they did it without Brandon Cooks, and while dealing with injuries to Tyler Guyton and Zach Martin during the game. This is huge, guys. Dak wasn't just forcing the ball to CeeDee Lamb or focusing on one player. He was spreading it out, making the defense guess, and keeping them off balance. That's what you want from your quarterback, especially against a defense as tough as Pittsburgh's. Now, we can't ignore the turnovers. They were definitely the low point of the game, and if the Cowboys want to go far this season, they'll need to clean those up. But Dak's overall performance outside of those mistakes, that's something to be encouraged about. The fact that he's taking accountability and recognizing where things went wrong is a big deal. It shows growth and it shows leadership. Prescott didn't back down. He owned it, and that's what you want from your QB. He knows they need to fix things, but he's also confident in their ability to do so. And considering they went up against one of the league's top defenses and still moved the ball effectively, that's a sign that this offense is on the right track. Let's take a moment to talk about the run game. Rico Dowdle was a breath of fresh air for the Cowboys. He carried the ball 20 times for 87 yards and injected some much-needed energy into the backfield. With Tony Pollard not playing at 100% and the offensive line dealing with injuries, Dowdle stepped up and kept the ground game alive. This was big, Cowboys Nation. We've been waiting for the run game to get going, and Dowdle gave us a glimpse of what could happen if we stay committed to it. His physicality and ability to break tackles gave the offense a much-needed boost. If he can continue playing like this, it's going to take a lot of pressure off Dak and open up the passing game even more. Look, we're not saying this was a perfect game. The turnovers, the penalties, and the sloppy moments are things that need to be addressed. But at the same time, we saw glimpses of what this offense can do when it's firing on all cylinders. The ball movement, the use of motion, and the balance between run and pass were all steps in the right direction. It's important to remember that this is a long season, and the Cowboys are still finding their groove. The fact that they were able to come away with a win, even while making mistakes, says a lot about the potential of this team. And like Dak said, they were moving the ball and getting into scoring position regularly, clean up the turnovers, and this offense could become one of the most dangerous in the league. With the victory over the Steelers, the Cowboys improved their playoff chances significantly. It may not have been pretty, but it was a win that showed resilience, and that's something we haven't always seen from this team in recent years. As the season progresses, these are the kinds of wins that can build momentum and confidence. Next up, we've got the Detroit Lions. It's another tough matchup, but if the Cowboys can carry over the good things from Sunday night and tighten up the mistakes, there's no reason why they can't come out on top again. Now, I want to hear from you. How do you feel about Micah Parsons' injury situation? Do you think we can hold up against the Lions without him, or are we in for a tough game? And what about that win against Pittsburgh? Do you think it's a sign of things turning around, or was it just a one-time flash of brilliance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And before you go, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Cowboys updates and news. Your support means everything, and we've got plenty more content coming your way as we follow the Cowboys' journey this season. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Cowboys.